Good morning, Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock. It's a beautiful sunny day again here in Southern California. Welcome to Money Truth Moments. I am your host, Carlos Garcia, with our always resident wisdom, Judy Copenbarger. How are you?
I'm honored. I'm doing really well today, Carlos. How are you doing?
Hey, doing good. I'm glad. Always looking forward to our show. I know we've been covering a lot of great topics since the beginning of the year. There's been a lot of great feedback from folks, and we've been talking about in the last week. We talked about the Copenbarger method of multi-generational financial succession, what that looked like, and we covered basically planning personal and family finances. So I know that we talked about sharing with folks a special series on this, so we're going to continue on that. And folks have been asking and looking forward to it. What's next? What's next? So I want to make sure that we don't run out of time and we jump right into it. What do you say?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So, folks, thank you for joining us. Please follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. Please make sure that you follow her on social media. All of her information is on her website. You can also find her through hashtag Judy Copenbarger, and I will share that a little bit more later. We'll talk about her website a little bit more and the resources available. So jumping back to what are some of the results of personal and family financial planning? Like, I know it's what's come up is knowing that look in your eye when you're spending money. Tell us about that.
Oh, that look in your eye when you're
Right.
Yeah, for some people, it's like an addiction. It's a drug. It's a way to kind of get high, and it fills up a need, kind of fills them up. And for years, I would tell, I did a lot of work with MOPS and moms groups when I was one of them, when I was a young woman, and people trying to raise little kids and survive all that. And I used to tell them, here's a test for you. You're trying to fill yourself up in different ways because it's easy to get depleted. When you got little kids at home, you're trying to run a business, do a job, whatever. And here's a test for you to go to the mall, to the big store, the mall, and go through the whole mall, look at the stores, window shop, do all of that. Don't spend any money one time. Can you leave the mall without taking a bag with you? Can you leave the mall without, even use the elevators and the bathrooms, and don't leave them anything. Don't give them any money. Can you do that? And for some women, that was a really big challenge. They felt like they owed the mall something, or they owed those people something. And they had a hard time. It was just a habit. So it's just being conscious about it. It's being purposeful about it. So it is a joy to spend money. Even paying the house payment is a joy. Paying the utility payment, paying the sewer guy, paying the trash guy. It's a joy when you have the money and it's already reserved and preserved for that purpose. It's like, I am prepared and I get to pay this bill fully and on time because I'm ready and I plan for it. It's a lot different than, oh, here comes another bill and they're stacking up on the kitchen counter and I can't even open them fast enough. Where's the money going to come from? All that stress. There's something about when you get ahead of that wave, you get ahead of that curve, that's when you get that look in your eye. And the look is confidence. The look is purposefulness. I'm spending this money on dinner. I'm spending this money on a bill, a medical bill, whatever it is. But I'm got purpose. That purpose is the look in my eye because I planned for this expense. That's where I want people to get. When they have that, there's this whole kind of piece that shows up. I've got these clients, like I just met with them again. They live in Texas, and I met with again last week, and they never finish the meeting without reminding me how much peace they have in their life, how much confidence they have, how much love they have for how they do life now. And they didn't learn how to plan their spending until they were in their 70s, until we met and we challenged them and we gave them step-by-step plans of action, things they could do. And now they said it's a joy. It's just a joy to work with our team, but it's a joy to be able to pay the bills on time. We've paid down all the debt. It's gone. Now we plan for trips with our grandkids and our children. And when we do it, we're spending money we've already saved, not money that we have yet to figure out where it's going to come from. And they always remind us how much purposefulness, and they're reminding us really about that look in their eye, that confidence that's in their eye. So I love that question, and I love the result that can show up in people's lives when they do plan and they do have a purpose with their spending.
Awesome. And it's funny, but I think, as when we're kids and all that, we don't really think about the responsibilities of finance. And we always have mom with that look in the eyes, like, are you really gonna do that, right? Like you're in trouble. But I think as we get older, right, and we start earning our own money, we realize that and I'm guilty of this. Well, it might be a good thing, but I kind of give myself the evil eye. It's like, well, are you really going to spend it on that? Is it really worth you? Do you really need it? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it's one of those things where it's I love the phrase, but it's very has a lot of purpose on it. But at the same time, you also have that factor when mom's looking at you like, okay, what'd you do now? You know what I mean? So
is that a need, a want, or a wish?
yeah, and that's
everything is a need.
And when you're young, you have no responsibility. Everything is a need, right? I need this, I need that. It's like,
I need to go to a movie. I need new socks, whatever it is. Is it a want or a wish? Yeah. That Corvette.
Oh, I know. Exactly, right. So I'm glad you shared also about your current clients, that you're helping them with the steps, right? Creating this financial journey with them, which kind of leads me to my next question is, do we this is a general question for folks. Do we have the skills to discuss and decide, our financial matters? I mean, that's a big thing for people, talking about finances, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we even start that conversation, right? No matter where you are in your journey in life.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts in finances. There are things that we do that are about growing our money, and trying to get more money and preparing for retirement and to achieve our goals and make sure we have food on the table and our next car is either in repair or replaced. And then there's the protective side. There's all the things that we do to make sure that what we have accumulated doesn't poof on us. And that's a term of art. That's an economical term, or maybe I learned it in law school. I don't know. But, when money poofs, we all know what that means. It's like, where'd it go?
Mm-hmm.
Did I pull it in my pocket? But you want to protect what you've grown, legally through insurances, through mitigating taxes or eliminating taxes. And you want to grow at the same time. So those are activities that you do. And there are a lot of ways to go wrong. There's so many things to do. I think for some people, it's just basic overwhelm. Now in California, we just had a law pass about a reassessment of property tax. So people that own a house or own property, when they leave it to their kids in the old days, well, until 2 weeks from now, you could leave it to your children and they wouldn't have to pay a higher tax. Now the rules have changed and that's not all true anymore. So a lot of people are putting together planning. First of all, what is this new law? And it's funny because lawmakers are interesting. A lot of times they draft a law and we say, well, how does it work? What does that mean for me? How do we apply the law? They're like, we'll tell you later. We haven't figured that out yet. Like, right. And this is one of those laws. So we don't know exactly the impact it's going to have or how it's going to play out here in California. And that happens in parishes and counties and states all over the country and nationally too. But it's like, what do we do with it? So I've got many clients right now that I've been working with, answering questions. First of all, what does this mean? Second thing, what does it mean to me? How does this new rule relate to me? And is there something I should do about it? And that can be a lot to navigate. That can be overwhelming. Some people are like throwing up their hands. I don't know. I don't care. Just whatever happens, which isn't the best plan, by the way. But a lot of people do that. It's just like, I don't know where to start. Well, one of the things that you can do is start with just really good information. Just educate yourself a little bit. You don't have to buy a big legal horn book on, how to do all this stuff, but you could start with simple things like, read a book. I've got one that is designed for people just like you that just want this simple. What does a tax mean? What does a property tax mean? What does it mean to me? Should I have a will or should I have a trust? What kind of insurances should I have? Am I being sold too much? Do I have too much? What kind of investments? If there's all these options that work, if you're fortunate enough to have an HR department or a company that has a whole big fat book of all these benefits, that's awesome. But there's an overwhelm to that too. Which benefits are right for me? just the health insurance, there's 85 choices. Which one is the best? And they all cost them different amount. And, there's premiums and deductibles and exemptions and all kinds of co-pays. I don't know what that is. So just to learn the basics of any of those things, any of those pillars of finances, you can read Money, Truth, and Life, which is a book that I wrote just for that purpose. If you like to watch videos or take classes, you can go to judycopenbarger.com and you can actually watch classes on all of these little issues in finance broken down. And you can learn one thing at a time, absorb it, reflect on it, apply it to your house, master it, and then learn the next thing. And you can just take a class at a time. That's a resource that I think is really valuable for people. It's what I call the truth about money. It's money, truth, and life. It's the truth about money. It's not what someone wants to sell you or wants you to believe so they get their result. It's about you and making really smart choices to navigate well at your house with your family.
Excellent. Thank you. Folks, thank you for joining us this morning. If you are just tuning in, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show. We are continuing to talk about personal and family financial planning here with Judy. I know that Judy talked about her book, Money, Truth, and Life, which is a great book that we're going to talk about a little bit later as far as the resources. So make sure that you are following her at judycopenbarger.com. We've discussed basically, that knowing that look in your eye, right? When we're spending money, we just finished talking about how do we even get started in talking about our financial matters, right? Where we are financially in our life, what we can do better, and all that. And I think what's very helpful is knowing that there's options out there. We've discussed options before. We talk about them again today, but just knowing that. You don't have to feel like you're alone getting this started, because I think half of the battle is getting over that first step of fear and acknowledging I need help. And a lot of people, including myself, it's hard to ask for that help because you don't want to seem like, okay, well, I feel dumb because I should have been at this stage, financially where I am in my life. And I think that's the mindset of a lot of people. And I'm glad when we're talking about this and folks have shared this, that when you're giving us some of these wisdoms that you've experienced, that you've shared with clients as well, it makes us take a deep breath and realize, okay, not every financial person out there is mean. you know what I mean? Not every financial person out there is going to confuse me, and I'm not going to, I'm going to be back to square one.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're covering a lot of this, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a moment. But with finance, I know that anytime you deal with money, there's always a high level of stress, right? Whether it's a lack of, even when you're having an abundance of money as well, it can be very stressful, right? Which it's probably a better problem to have than not have. However, right? When we're looking at rewriting our financial future, what does that look like today? And also, how do we manage some of these financial stresses in our lives, no matter where we are?
Yeah, well, there are stresses associated with money because it's a powerful tool. It can make or break you. It can give you a big boost in your attitude, or it could really take you down. And I come across so many people through this educational process and the work that we've done here, so many people that come to the money table, to the money conversation with kind of this shame. Like you mentioned, I made a mistake, or I should know better. I should be farther along. There's this guilt, I shouldn't have done it that way, or I knew I shouldn't and I did it anyway, or, so kind of shame and guilt and fear all kind of rolled up into these negative emotions that people sometimes have around money. And sometimes they project that on their spouse. You did that. You didn't make enough. Well, you spent too much. All of that happens, and that brings that disharmony. So putting that all back together and just saying, where we are right now is the present. We have our past, and our past is like dry cement. Dry cement, we can look at where we've stepped and we see every mark along the way in our journey. And we can see where we've stumbled, and there's a record of that because it's dry cement. Now we can go back and reflect upon it, but we can't change anything about that dry cement. It is what it is. And then we have our present. Then we have our future. And our future is like wet cement. And wet cement has not yet received any marks. So we can purposely plan where we step, where we place each foot as we journey along, and we can be purposeful about that. So the choice you have right now is to use the present. It's like the gift. The present is the gift, right? It's the present to learn from what we've done in the past, not stew about it, not bring that fear and that guilt and that shame and all that back to us, blame, all that, but to use the present to really think, what have I learned from the past? What am I going to purposefully do in the future as I plan and move forward? And like you mentioned last week, finding an advisor that you trust that you could work with, having conversations with your spouse, in these financial conversations with your children, even if they're young, so they can learn, because they learn more from you by your modeling and by your actions than by what you tell them. They might get maybe 10% of what you tell them, but it's like, but you're not doing it. And they're going to end up doing what you do, know what you say, right? Don't drink beer when you're 14.
Right.
You did. You did. So all those things, they're watching us. They don't miss anything. Little kids are smart, So we just want to make sure that we're purposeful, that we're using the present, we're moving forward with intention and purposefulness. That makes all the difference.
And I'm glad you're bringing that up, because I want to have folks also hear from you too. That I kind of mentioned briefly about not every financial planner is made the same, right? And I think maybe something that would be helpful for those that are just tuning in today is also, what are maybe some things that we should look out for when we're talking, when we decide to take that leap of faith? Okay, now I'm gonna, talk to somebody about my finances. What are some things that maybe we should look out for the positive, or to stay away from?
Yeah. Well, I would avoid, and I would say this to, sister, mother, anyone I care about, anyone I love, stay away from, I don't want to step on any toes, but the banks and the financial institutions, they will give you advice that's good for them, right? They have shareholders they're beholden to. They have profits they need to make. They have incentives that need to, they need to meet to bring in the income, to raise their income. They have their own products. They have their own services, which isn't a bad thing. But sometimes the way they're so captive, it's kind of in their best interest to give you advice rather than yours. So the first thing, like if it's like a repelling or avoiding, I would stay away from those companies. They work for them. They don't work for you. So where do you go then? So if you can find an independent source, and there are many, one way to do that is to look for someone that has the CFP designation. This is going to be someone that has a level of knowledge above just the sales of a product, or selling you an annuity or insurance, or gathering assets to manage for you, like a bank would want to do that, because they need the money in the bank so they can turn around and loan it out, right? So that's not a bad thing, and you probably are not destined to be harmed by working with those institutions, but you're going to pay a lot of fees. You're going to be upsold at every turn. If you have more than $10 there, they're going to tackle you in the lobby and want to invest it for you, or sell you a new loan for your house or something. So sometimes it's just the hassle factor you're avoiding, but definitely cost. But independents, they can still have low or high cost. So an independent is not someone that has to sell the products for the company that has the name on the door or on the building. So independent is a good way to go. If they have a CFP, they have a level of knowledge about other things besides the products that they might be engaged in selling. They're going to know about tax. They're going to know about estate planning and some of the legal instruments that can be used there. They're going to know a little bit more about cash flows, and how much money you should have in the bank, and how much money you should be having in your expenses, and helping you prepare for taxes and corporate decisions. So a CFP is a good way to go. Some of them work on a fee-only basis, and some of them work for these companies. So that would be a distinction to ask and learn about if you're looking to hire someone. I think most importantly, you want to hire someone that has values similar to yours. So if you love dogs, they love dogs, it's a good start. You love football, they love football, it's a good start. If you go to church, they go to church, it's a good start, right? So same kind of church. But you want to make sure that they have similar values. And that comes down to, like, when you're thinking about, should I spend it all or save most of it for my kids? If you have An advisor that has a different philosophy about giving or helping your family with education or travel, and if you're not aligned in that way, you're always going to get advice that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like they're honoring your values because they have different values. So that would be something important to look for. And I think lastly, you want to find someone that you trust that really will give you the right advice, not for their own interest, but for yours. And every advisor will tell you they're doing that because by law, they're supposed to say that. But sometimes it doesn't all shake out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And one way to guarantee that is to get someone who is a fiduciary that will work with you. A fiduciary they're legally bound to, in writing, prove to the world, prove to the regulators that they're giving you the best advice. And they have to prove that. So, like, for example, if I'm going to help someone with a mutual fund portfolio or a stock portfolio, I have to prove that we looked at all these other options. And here's why what we're investing in is best for them. Here are the costs. Here are the upside, the downside. Here's what they said about what they want the outcome to be. Here's why we aligned that and matched it up. By law, we have to prove that for every recommendation, every piece of advice, and every action that we take together. So if you can find it, the designation is the AIF, Accredited Investment Fiduciary. If you could find one of those, there aren't very many, but if you can find one in your area that can work with you, that would be like, about as guaranteed as you can be that the advice will be good advice for you. It doesn't mean the fiduciary knows everything they need to know. So if you have a CFP, AIF together, that's what I did. I thought I want to have not only the obligation to do the right thing, but know it as well. And then I added law school and some other things to that. But finding someone like that, I think, would really be in your best interest, and it'll help your family legacy down the road. It's about sustainability. So you could do a good plan and coast for a while, but it's got to be sustainable to last your lifetime and theirs as well.
So, folks, thank you for joining us. I know we're getting close towards the end of the show, but if you didn't catch the beginning of it, we're continuing on our series of planning personal and family finances. We are here with Judy Copenbarger. We're here every Tuesday. Please share out the stream as well as follow her on judycopenbarger.com. Also, I want to make sure that we also have a little bit of time to talk about some of the resources available on your website. So you discussed, and I have my book here, Money, Truth, and Life. Congratulations. I know it's been #1 bestseller on several platforms. And it's doing fantastic. It is changing the way we look at finance. So I want to take a few minutes for you to talk a little bit about the book. And one of the key things that you mentioned just a few minutes ago is also about legacy. I want folks to also remember that, when planning for the future, planning your legacy, this has been you all along. Planning your legacy. The book is part of your legacy. The online mastery program is part of the legacy. And I want folks to also know just a little bit about each of them and also how they can get themselves involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is my legacy piece. I've said that from the beginning. Working with clients for almost 40 years in all these areas of finance, I've learned a lot of mechanics and a lot of conversations and stories and visuals that help people really understand these concepts. And when they understand them better, they can plan better and they can understand the choices. We lay out the options and they can say, that's what I want for my family. That's the outcome I want. And so we're able to do that now in a written form. So Money, Truth, and Life, the book, does that. It lays out all the 5 pillars, all the conversations you need to know about money, basically. And there are stories that are relevant. You might even know the people, maybe different faces and names, but you know these people in these stories. And you've seen these things, good, bad, and ugly, happen to people. So we can learn from other people's mistakes. We can also be inspired by other people to emulate what they've done to get the same result they have. And all those stories are in the book. You can also go to the online mastery program, does the same thing. So if you like videos, if you like to learn, take notes, the resources are there. So you can plan your income, plan your expenses, plan for taxes, navigate all those decisions about employer benefits and insurance benefits and all of that. What do I need to do for my estate plan and succession for my business? How do I navigate that? That's all there. And that's my legacy, taking everything from my brain, everything from my experience and pushing it out to the world. So it's available and it will eventually become part of my life print. So a life print, a legacy is something that you you don't just leave a legacy, you create your legacy, which is what I'm doing now. And then when you're gone, it's like a building on the shore where the hurricane has washed it away and there's still the footprint of the building. It'll be there for a long, long, long time. That's what happens with us. When we're gone, we have this life print that we leave. And I'm trying to be very intentional with the life print I leave. And a lot of that has to do with this work and helping people that want to do better with their finances and have family harmony and strategic planning in place that takes their life to the next level. That's what I want to do. I want to be part of that. So that's a lot of why I do a lot of what I do every day. And that's why I'm here.
Awesome. And we appreciate you being here because a lot of this wisdom we've covered over the last several months has just been fantastic. Like I said, folks, please make sure you follow Judy. Visit her website at judycopenbarger.com. There's a lot of free resources available. So you have no excuse to jump right in and take that first step to financial freedom, I guess, for lack of better words, right? Okay. So now, as we're getting close to the end of the show, I want to make sure that we have enough time for our favorite part of the show, which is... It's time for our Money Truth Challenge, right?
Challenge! Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Carlos, last week we had a challenge about family harmony, right? So the goal was three things. Figure out where family harmony could be better at your house. Identify who the people are. You know, when you talk about family harmony, who are the people involved in that harmony or disharmony? And then 2 action items that you could take and do today that will make a difference in that. So tell me about your experience.
So, in looking at this, obviously finances is always going to play an important role in family, right? In creating that unity, that harmony. The folks involved in my family, there's 3 of us. Well, actually, there's 5 of us if we include our fur babies on there too, right? So everybody's together with this. So, as I was looking at this for our challenge, I also looked at the aspect of what are two things that we can do better, right? As you sit on number 3. Mm-hmm. And I think, we've talked about this before about involving our kids in finance decisions and showing them, hey, these are the bills. My son is 14 and he's starting to ask more about, so when I have a mortgage, how does that work? So if I have a loan for this, how does that work? If I have a credit card, what do I need to do? Or how do I get a credit card? But for right now, it's always been about, birthdays, money, and all of that. And he gets to spend it on whatever he wants. Now, 2 of the key steps that we're going to look into this, and this is obviously because of our conversations with the show, is we're going to start getting him involved in paying out the bills. I know that we're taking our very first step in talking to a professional finance person on there, that we're going to also have him involved in. And this is just things that you've talked about, having, creating that harmony or maintaining that harmony. And I think it's time, we have put it aside for 14 years at least, but I think it's the time where we all come together to make those family decisions that are going to, affect us in the future. So that was my challenge. I mean, it really gave me a lot to think about, and I look forward to sharing more later on, just where we are, So thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. What a great age too. And you have another 4 or 5 plus years to work with them as he maybe opens his first investment account and he learns more about banking. And like you said, how interest works with the loan, on the mortgage, how you pay almost all interest at first and at the end it's almost all principal. And like, how would you know that, right? Unless dad sat you down and mom sat there and said, here's how it works. So that's so great. And he's at the right age. So good for you. I look forward to learning more about that. Now I have a challenge for everyone. So all of you out there watching, here's your challenge for this week. We're going to focus on that spoke of life around relationships. So let's suppose you're in your 60s. What I want you to do is think about people that you knew and would like to reconnect with. So back like in your teens, in your 20s, maybe there's a friend or an old roommate from college or something, someone who was a really big part of your life and now you haven't really heard much from them. It's time to reconnect. And then take the second part of your life, maybe 30s and 40s. There might be someone that you did life with. Maybe you coached soccer together, you coached baseball together. Maybe your kids were in the same choir, or maybe you had piano recitals together, whatever it was. Someone from the middle part of your life, and then someone from maybe the last 5 or 10 years that you just really, you kind of are thinking, I haven't talked to them in a while. Maybe it's time to pick up the phone or plan a Zoom call or something and reconnect. So pick one from early life, middle life, and late life. Now, if you're not 60 or 70, if you're 30 or so, you can do the same thing. Just put your life in thirds. So if let's say you're 30, someone that you knew from childhood, maybe you were attended school together and then they moved away or you moved away or something happened, you just got disconnected. Maybe you ended up in different sports or at a different school. And then take someone from 10 to 20. So maybe high school buddy, someone that you did things with in high school or used to travel with, or you did a ski trip with or something. And then someone from, again, the last 5 or 10 years. We haven't reconnected. Maybe you did a lot of things together before the shutdown, and now we've had a year of all this isolation. It's like, who would I really like to see? Who would I really like to reconnect with and talk to? So find 3 people from 3 different phases of your life and reconnect with them and do what you need to do to straighten that spoke or develop that relationship and see what happens.
Oh, that's a great challenge. Again, you're going to make me think about this, which is great because I always go down these memory lane, this path of just remembering things from my childhood, just growing up and all of that as well. So I look forward to sharing that next week too. And folks, if you are watching us right now, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show. Take the challenge. Put your answers below in the chat. Share with us if you want to. Give us a call also or send us a message to talk about it. We can also record that, and we would love to share that with everybody watching as well too. So I know we're running a little bit over time on the show. So any last parting words, Judy?
No, just think about those relationships. Think about family harmony. Let's just really focus coming up to Valentine's Day. Let's really focus on the love and the connection and the people in our lives that we care about. It's a good time to do that. Make it a great week.
Great. Thank you, folks, for joining us. This has been another Money Truth Moment with Judy Copenbarger. Remember, we're here every morning. Not every morning, every Tuesday morning. Yeah. By the way, did you know we're doing this every day, right? But join us every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Please make sure you share this out. And also make sure you follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. I am your host, Carlos, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Judy.
See you soon.